My parents decided that after graduating from a junior college of business in Durham, that I should go farther afield as opposed to returning to the tobacco fields of North Carolina. I loved it, and I thought this is going to be home. I was invited to be a part of the Southwest Neighborhood Assembly, and I liked its mission, which was to improve the quality of life for its residents, regardless of who they were, race, economics, gender, and all of that. I always feel like that I'm walking a line of the haves and the have-nots. I have a role to continue to work so that both sides of the community can continue to come together. Our capital has one of the largest mortality rates of breast cancer. I felt like I couldn't go through this disease without parting my knowledge and experience to help others. So I created the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund. This is where I gave to a community that gave to me. I still love Southwest, and Southwest still loves me.
Yeah.
Associate Director for External.
Okay, I think we can start now.
Okay, well, with that being said, I want to welcome everyone to the July, wow, I'm rushing things along, to the June 18th edition of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund Support Group. So I want to welcome everyone, and I am your MC for this evening, Mr. Clinton Burnside, who I am the Mentake 10 Program Manager at Howard University Cancer Center. As you know, as we have to say, the real HU. But thank you all for joining us this evening. And I'm not sure how I was chosen for this honorary position, but I am very, very grateful to be here. So just really want to jump right in and kind of, welcome everyone and to introduce everyone to someone who doesn't really need an introduction, Miss Thelma D. Jones, who, you just saw her introduction a few moments ago in the video, but just a little bit more I'd like to add to that. She actually founded this program, and Howard University Cancer Center was the first major cancer center to partner with her. And I think this was around 2011 or so, but we've been thriving and surviving for a very, very long time and doing some wonderful things. And another thing that we're doing, I also have the pleasure of serving with Miss Thelma Jones on the JEDI, the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Board here also as a part of Howard University Cancer Center. So I just really wanted to turn things over to Ms. Jones.
Thank you, and Clinton, and good evening. You questioned why you were chosen. Why not? I mean, I can't think of anyone else who could do the job as great as you are, and I enjoy the years of working relationship that we have and that we continue to have through our work with Howard University's JEDI Center. So as Clinton said, I'm Thelma D. Jones, the proud founder of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund, which started in 2010 as a support group. And we evolved into a full-fledged organization in 2012. So if we're doing our math, in September, we will celebrate the 13th anniversary of the founding of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund, along with the 73rd birthday of yours truly. And of course, I have to remind my audience, thank you, Edward, that I don't look 72 and 3/4 plus. I am the new 60. And so with that, I bring this energy, love, joy, and passion, and a calling to what I do most and what I love to do the best. And I'm often questioned why. But when I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2007 and was going through the surgery, that morning I made a prayer. And, you know, we always say you have to be careful what we ask for. But I asked the Almighty that if He took me through this, I promised I would give my life to this disease. And what I'm very happy and content about is that not one single moment have I defaulted in my request to the Almighty. So what I have to ask Him now is to please slow me down so that I can have more time to enjoy for myself that self-care part. The mission of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund is to help to achieve and improve the overall wellness of women and men, and also young girls who are getting breast cancer at a much earlier stage, being more aggressive, and it is being diagnosed at a later stage. So our mission is to help improve the overall well-being of them through outreach, education, and support. And one of the ways that we do that is through our monthly support group meeting, which was modeled after the support group meeting at the World Bank. And many of you know that's an institution or an organization that I retired from after more than 33 years. Our vision is to help to achieve and one of the things I have to admit that I get more recently now is chemo brain, which I think that was one of the reasons why I was just hospitalized. The things that I know tend to escape me. But our vision is to help ensure that breast cancer is no longer a disease the way that it is. And I am so honored that we have the wonderful people, our distinguished speakers that are not just here in the Washington, D.C. area, but all the way in the Big D. And as many of you know, we have, there's a football team out there that rivals our team, but it's okay. We're going to let Sylvia be a part of us, but she can't bring her Dallas Cowboys joy. That's just totally unaccepted. And Kermit, you shouldn't smile too much either, because we don't want your relationship with the New England Patriots to affect us either. So you're deep into Redskin, or I should say Commanders territory, okay? But thank you again for our wonderful speakers, and particularly our MC, Mr. Clinton Burnside, who's going to take us through a wonderful journey this evening, celebrating Men's Health Awareness Month and Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Clinton and to ask you to please tell us a little bit about the work that you do with Men Take 10 at Howard University, particularly since this month we are celebrating that. And I should also give a shout out that we are honoring Gay Pride Month, and this year the District of Columbia is hosting World Pride Month. So we are welcoming other residents from all over the world. And this is also National Black Cancer Awareness Month. So there's a lot that we are celebrating this month that the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund is proud to be a part of all of it. And as I said, I will allow Clinton Burnside to take us a bit deeper into these celebrations.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Ms. Jones. And we certainly applaud you for being with us tonight. We recognize that you've had some recent health challenges, but in spite of it all, you did not count it robbery to not be with us. So thank you for joining us in spite of it all. So you need to apologize for nothing at all. So thank you for joining us. And like you said, we are celebrating so many different things this month, with men's health awareness being one of the main focuses for this month. Um, and I think that's actually a perfect segue to kind of talk about the Men Take 10 program at Howard University Cancer Center, a program in which I have the honor of being the manager of. And we are a men's health program, which I like to describe it as we have three main components, but there's so much more to the program. But one of the components is the education piece, where we provide a lot of educations, one-on-one as well as group education around men's health overall. But we still have a specific interest in prostate cancer. As per our founder, Dr. Lucille Adams Campbell, who's now at Georgetown, but she founded our program, the Men Take 10 program, in the late 1990s. And then the program has been successful since. And I've actually had the pleasure of kind of managing this program since about 2012, just before, actually just after I met Miss Thelma Jones in one of our community groups. And it was quite interesting, just really quickly, just kind of sharing the story with her. She approached me, actually, we were leaving the meeting, and she approached me as we were getting onto the metro train and was telling me about the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds, I've never heard of her, never heard of the program. But, she mentioned, I was like, oh, it sounds interesting. So I get back to Howard and I began asking about it. And everyone, that I asked about, it was like, oh, yeah, Ms. Jones, yeah, you certainly should work with her because she's phenomenal and she does great things. She's also a survivor. And I don't think Ms. Jones shared that with me on the train. But it's just been amazing and phenomenal. So I thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Jones. And I bring that up because she has certainly been a huge supporter of our Men Take 10 program over the years. And in fact, we've done a number of events together in addition to kind of serving on the Jedi panel. But kind of getting back to the Men Take 10 program, we do the education piece as well as we have a early detection arm where we go out into the community and provide prostate cancer screenings. And that has been a phenomenal program that continues to grow every year. And then more recently, our latest addition to the program is our peer-to-peer support arm, where we meet monthly on the second Wednesday of the month. And Ms. Jones, again, I can't thank you enough for your continued support, because every time I send her anything about what we're doing with our program, she is very, very quick to forward it and share it with each of you and just beyond, just our circle, because I think what makes why this area is so unique is just our unique bonds and partnerships and working together. And Ms. Jones, I will apologize in advance because I get your messages every month, and sometimes I do forget to send it out as often as I should be, but I do make an effort to mention it, when we have our groups and every opportunity when I'm in the community to share the important work that we're doing together. So I think I've said enough about our Men Take 10 program as around men's health. But in addition to just with our Men Take 10 program and Men's Health Month, we're also celebrating, like Ms. Jones mentioned, National Black Cancer Awareness Month, in which we work. And I know Ms. Jones have certainly worked with Dr. Rhea Blakely as well. And so, Brother Sergio, if you'll go ahead and share that clip and some of the wonderful work that they're doing.
Hello, I'm Rhea Blakey, Associate Director for External Outreach and Engagement at the FDA Oncology Center of Excellence, also known as OCE. I lead OCE's Project Community. Project Community is dependent on the aid of valuable community-based stakeholders. Project Community's main objectives are twofold: increasing minority participation in cancer clinical trials and increasing minority participation in genetic database initiative to increase cancer awareness in one of the most vulnerable segments of the U.S. population. I'm delighted to share the vision of the National Black Family Cancer Awareness Week initiative with stakeholders like the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund. One of the other areas where we're very happy to have landed there. Almost since the start of my FDA tenure in 2014, I've had the privilege and honor of working with the award-winning grassroots nonprofit founded by Thelma D. Jones. Most recently, OCE's project community needed valuable cancer community stakeholders to spread the word and to participate in our National Black Family Cancer Awareness Week initiative. Typically, we inform stakeholders that all National Black Family Cancer Awareness Week participants are voluntary and self-selected. Thelma is the exception to the rule. We recruited her. We knew we could count on Thelma. Without hesitation, she immediately and graciously offered up her extensive global network. Thelma's contact list reaches far beyond the cancer community into almost all sectors of industry. Everyone knows Thelma. Her superpower is community outreach. She has her own special and personal cancer journey and strongly believes that no one should travel theirs alone. Her support group is her signature program. I served as a speaker several years ago and have been a part of her extended family ever since. The OCE is pleased to recognize the participation of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund in the inaugural National Black Family Cancer Awareness Week. Thank you, Thelma, for sharing your community outreach superpowers.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. I don't think I could have said it any better than that. So yeah, join me as we applaud Ms. Thelma D. Jones for all of her wonderful and excellent work in the community. As you see that it's not just a local impact that Ms. Jones has, it's national and probably worldwide at this point. Well, actually, yeah, it is worldwide because we have people from all over the world joining us this evening. So clearly, her impact is beyond what we can ever imagine, because not just the work that she's doing, but the heart that she has just to serve others. And I love the fact that it was just stated her superpower was just that community outreach and engagement. Yeah, absolutely, Ms. Jones, absolutely. And actually, that kind of leads me into our first one of our first speakers for this evening, Brother Edward Jones, who is actually one of the co-founding members with Miss Jones of the Black Benefactor Foundation. And so I want to go ahead and introduce Mr. Edward Jones, who is also the Vice President of Programs and Philanthropic Advising Services Association of Black Foundation Executives, or ABFE, a philanthropic partnership for Black communities for prostate cancer survivors. So, Brother Edwards, you have the floor, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you all. It is an honor to be here, Thelma. I have to say, when we were starting this work, I had a chance to attend several of the gatherings, and it is an honor to just know you through our relationship when we were together at Black Benefactors, and then just to see how this has evolved. And why I so deeply appreciate this and giving you your flowers now, because we ran into each other just a couple of weeks ago at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's Health Equity Summit in Southwest, and hadn't seen each other in a while, but I was standing in line to get tickets, so she was behind me. I heard her voice and said, "That's Thelma Jones." Behind. No relation, but it was just a beautiful opportunity for us to just kind of go through that and hear from other Black leaders and hear from other physicians, including Dr. O'Shea Blackstock, who I came to meet when I was first diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer in January 2024. And so I had not talked to Thelma about this part of the journey. And I blame myself, and I'll just use this as a time for a teachable moment, because I've always just thought so highly of her work around breast cancer fund work, and I had prostate cancer. But I've been so deeply connected to other folks that have been dealing, other friends, as I got diagnosed, other friends that were diagnosed with breast cancer and other cancers, colon cancer, another dear friend had endured. We were enduring these things together. And so the idea of the work that you do and that you spoke of, Brother Clinton, definitely is village work as it relates to just knowing and being aware of this. And so briefly, my experience was in third quarter of 2023, I was having lower back pain, and it was really hard. It was hard for me to stand up too long in doing praise and worship at church. It's like these moments where I just had a long, this unusual difficulty and pain that doctors had initially diagnosed as being prostatitis, and my prostate had an infection. I had gone over 10 plus years on active monitoring because my prostate had I had an enlarged prostate, and my dad too had one. So, you know, preferably I got it from my dad. It was definitely something that was handed down clearly to me. And in that, my dad also had uh, really a couple decades before his passing had prostate cancer as well, and had navigated it. So I was aware of it, but never thought that it might be what my issue was until I honestly had a moment, had a period of time where I could not go to the bathroom. And it hit me very suddenly while I was away for a business trip. And I had to come um, back to DC. I'm just coming from Baltimore, and I literally was in, it was November 2023, I was in the waiting room for 11 hours in pain that I'd never experienced before. And to that end, you know, after the early morning hours, a catheter was a solution to alleviate the pain, but there was still a question after having multiple biopsies over the years where there's no cancer detected, but having an elevated PSA, which my urologist had attributed to being more guided towards or connected to my enlarged prostate, because there was nothing that was discovered during the biopsies, which was not a pleasant experience, but it was one that was necessary. And so when we had this experience, well, I had this experience, and then coming into having to advocate for myself, even where there are some procedures that my urologist at the time had prescribed for me, and my insurance had said they didn't think it was a medical necessity, and I gotten declined. And maybe using the spirit of Thelma and the spirit of advocating for yourself, I talked to whomever was unfortunate enough to get on the phone with me while I was outside of the radiology office or room, and said, "Are you all trying to kill me?" Literally in those words. And it seemed like magically what was declined had gotten approval. And when they had done the approval, there were some other tests, which then precipitated additional biopsies. And my during the biopsies, it was 99% chance that I had, even before the tissue had been submitted, that I had prostate cancer. And it was determined to be advanced prostate cancer that had literally metastasized in my bones. And so there was a question around if I had multiple myeloma, I can't even say what the name of it is, multiple myeloma. So there was a question around that. And so here I was, really going through the emotional. So as we talk about mental health awareness, so there's a whole depression period that I was also just dealing with, because it's at that time, as I'm realizing it, you know, in that month, first quarter of 2024, Dexter King died of prostate cancer. O.J. Simpson died, or like named people who either been diagnosed or died of prostate cancer in that time. So, you know, here I am now just counting the moments, like figuring out this is almost an inevitability, not fully understanding, you know, how cancer does this, the word cancer creates a whole specter. But then talking to my hematologist, talking to my urologist, one of them said, well, if you get a cancer, this is one to get. Just because of the ways it can be treated, the ideas of how I may go through it, and the monitoring and the support services, all the things that were there are available to us. And sometimes it's a matter of, and I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, around the idea, you know, we know what we know, and oftentimes getting connected to people like Thelma, organizations, and the work that you all are doing at Howard and other groups I've had the benefit of being connected to along this journey has been really a blessing for me. Prayer definitely works, but there's prayer that does not work often without some action. And so the action of just, you know, doing things like doing what I'm supposed to do, and getting my colonoscopy scheduled at a specific time, because you know, again, that was probably my bigger concern before thinking that this would show up. And then also navigating the idea of cancer that I knew was in my family. My mom died from lung cancer when I first moved to DC, actually, soon after I moved to DC. And like I said, my dad had survived prostate cancer for a number of years and had a few other things that he had been contending with. He ultimately died from pancreatic cancer, which is the secret one, where people tend to say it's a very just very devastating disease. And so I was a caregiver to both of my parents in their final months of their lives, and so I really got to see how that all also creates the emotional grappling with this, to see people that care for you to have to be a caregiver. So there's just so many things that I've had to just reflect on and think through. But I'm grateful to have opportunities to talk about it, because one thing that we know to be true is oftentimes people don't talk about these things enough. And in my journey, I've had the benefit of having listening ears and friends who have ultimately confided in me, some of them that they were also starting their own journey or had their journey, they just never talked about it, which was a whole nother thing. Like, well, how are you going to tell me this? Is like, oh yeah, I had my prostate taken out 20 years ago. I'm like, well, this is a thing, right? As men, it is incumbent upon us to talk to each other. As women, we need you to help us. We need folks to just get us to talking more about these things, because it's a very slow growing cancer, as is multiple myeloma is a slow growing cancer. And these things require us to be aware that they exist. And oftentimes we're not thinking about it because we're so fixated on work, so fixated on other things, education, whatever it may be. But it's really an idea of being mindful of all of us and all the things that could happen. They don't have to happen to us, but we just need to be aware of it. So I'll stop there. Thank you for listening. Wait a minute. I didn't even. I buried the lead actually in this space. In December, my doctor identified I had that technically I was in remission. My PSA levels is still it's much lower than it had been for all those years before. And in January of 2024, when I had been diagnosed, it was over 1,000. My PSA had spiked from 300 to over 1,000. So now to be have been at 1.0 in December of this past year is a testimony, and I'm deeply in gratitude and thankful for my partner of 11 years, Will, my friends that came around and circled themselves around me to help support me through this journey, even to the extent that I'm talking about it at my church with other brothers and at my job and other spaces. So it's an honor to be able to talk about it. It's an honor to be here to tell the story.
Absolutely. And we are honored to hear your story, man, and to share all the details. I mean, there was so much that you unpacked it, in that, some of the key things that I kind of caught on right to immediately is the support system, in your spiritual support through your, church and prayer, and how it led to action for you being your self advocate, and then your medical support team, your oncologists, your medical oncologists, your primary care doctors, that support team, and also your family, and discussing that family history, and not just holding on to it, but just sharing it. And so, brother, we tip our hats to you, man, and everything that you're going through and dealing with. But know that you're not here by chance, man, not here by chance. You're here for a reason, and your work isn't done. So you keep on thriving and surviving, my brother, and just know that you're not in it by yourself. You have a whole family right here with us tonight. That rallies around you, and we kind of talked beforehand, and so I'm right there with you to support you, man, because I want you to also be a part of some of my networks as well, man. So thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
And just kind of leading right into the next part of our program is, really as we now kind of focus on not just men's health, but men's mental health. I certainly want to take the opportunity to introduce Dr. Kermit A. Crawford, who is a licensed psychologist, designated forensic psychologist, teacher, and researcher. He served as a former associate professor of the Avalon Endowed Chair of Psychology at Hampton University, the other HU, and as
the real HU.
I thought that might get some response. But in addition to his work at the Hampton University, and as the former clinical associate professor emeritus from the Boston University School of Medicine, Dr. Crawford is the former director of of the Center of Multicultural Mental Health at Boston University School of Medicine and Boston Medical Center, as well as the former executive director of the Massachusetts Marathon Bombing Victim Survivors Resiliency Program. His brother's all over the place. He's doing a whole lot. So thank you for your service. He's done extensive work in multicultural behavioral health, disaster response, trauma, addiction, and culturally informed practices across the nation. Dr. Crawford is the recipient of numerous national, state, and local awards, citations, and recognitions. He is a member of the National Center for Injury Prevention and Control's Board of Scientific Counselors of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, and the Disaster Behavioral Health Response Cadre of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA for short. In addition, as if I haven't shared a lot already, in addition to his doctorate from Boston College, he is a recipient of an honorary doctorate degree from William James College. Dr. Crawford also holds a Master of Arts degree in research in clinical and community psychology from the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, and a BA in psychology, magna cum laude, mind you, from the University of North Carolina in Greensboro. Dr. Crawford is the former psychologist for the NFL assigned to the New England Patriots. We won't hold that against you here, but we certainly want to welcome you, Dr. Crawford, for joining us this evening. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Burnside. I first want to just tell you how transcendent the story that Mr. Jones shared, and I thank him for that. It was deep in many different ways, and we certainly wish you the best on your continuing journey. And if the past has been any indication, you're in a good place, and I know you're in good hands. Secondly, I wanted to say that I am an unabashed fan of my classmate, Thelma D. Jones. And we were talking about it. It's like been 55 years since that time. And there's something about a relationship that sustains that kind of time when you started, when you wasn't nothing. We wasn't nothing. We thought we were something, but we wasn't nothing. But to see where she has gone through the World Bank and through the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Foundation, so many other things, you know, it is a blessing because she gives out miracles and touches people in miracles every day. And I'm thankful for that too. Now, it comes down to me. And I was thinking that, do I really want to do a presentation that I think about? You know, because when you're thinking, you're doing this kind of thing. Or do you want to do a presentation that you think about? And when you're thinking, it's like, okay, let me figure out what we're going to say. So what I'm doing is sort of between the two. And when this happens, I scare myself. So we're going to see where it goes from here. But it's important for me to first put out there that, you know, a lot of this is about wellness. So it's not about mental health pathology or mental illness. It's about wellness, because most of us are going to be in the wellness category. And when you talk about wellness, you're talking about quality of life. And mental health, or at least the wellness aspect of mental health, informs almost everything you do. So even on the medical side, if you don't have the mental wellness there, then it's going to drag that down. So we want to bolster the mental wellness for you to be able to do the things that you're going to do and have to do to make sure that the other thing is in place. And you think about quality and also quantity. We all want a long life. And I hope it never comes down to a question of whether it's going to be quality or quantity. For me, it needs to be both. And that's an important aspect. Stress is in a lot of what we talk about in our daily lives. And we don't talk about it enough because there's a word, Emcee, and I'm not going to define it now for those of you who don't know what it is, but I am going to get there. And you'll hopefully be able to see how it all connects, unless my thinking didn't match up to my thinking and it doesn't come together like that. But we're going to see. First of all, I want to carry you back. I want you to think back to the 60s and 70s primarily. But when I say, and I'd like for you all, I guess I'm able to hear you, I'm going to say a name and just tell me, just out loud, I'll hear it all, what comes to your mind. Marvin Gaye.
What's going on?
All right.
Sexual healing.
Okay. Okay. All right. Otis Redding.
Sitting by the dock of the bay.
Dock of the bay.
Yeah, all right. Y'all got that one too. Aretha.
Respect.
ECT, yeah.
Yeah.
Respect.
That was the one I thought about. Temptations.
My girl.
My
Sure.
girl, yeah.
We think an awful lot alike. Awful lot alike. Gladys Knight and the Pips.
Midnight.
Midnight Train to
Train to
Georgia.
Every one of these y'all have said, I have predominantly. Okay, let's go a couple of more. James Brown.
I
Black and
feel
proud.
good.
Yes.
Black and proud.
Okay. Now, the Supremes.
Baby love.
Stop in the name
Yes,
of
stop
love.
in the name of love.
Baby Love was one I thought about too, TJ. And now I'm going to say a singer's name, and I want, if you bad, I want you to tell me what he sang. Lattimore, not the new Lattimore, the old Lattimore.
Ooh.
Oh, that was before my time.
Yeah, no, that song was there when we were there.
It's a deep song too.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
He actually sang two that are standouts, but he was kind of like a two-hit wonder to me. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's straighten it out.
Go ahead, Miss Power.
Yeah.
Let's straighten it out. And the other one I thought was really good is my Give a Damn just gave out a long time ago. But I think it's important to go back during that time because that's part of what we're thinking about. So, Sergio, if you could pull up the slides, nostalgia. And this is a wistful, sentimental way of thinking about things that happened a long time ago. Now, when we're thinking about those things, we tend to think about the good parts, but there are bad parts too. But we tend to somehow mute those parts and we think about the good times that happened. And it's just human nature. It's just like, and sorry to bring this up, it's just like when people die and you knew them all their lives. And then the preacher gets up there and says how God is going to wrap his arm around them and going to carry them where. Now, we don't know what God is going to do. And there's always the opportunity of, deathbed change. Yeah. But the other thing related is that, and on the cross, when Jesus was crucified, there was one of the thieves that went to heaven with Jesus. But we don't really know what's going to happen during that time. So it is something about us continuing to make things better in the past without seeing the balance of what things are, because this in our lives was one of those irrecoverable parts of our lives. We can't go back. We can't do a whole lot about it. But as we get older, that's when some of the challenge comes in, the stress that I was talking about. And stress is a tension or a strain that we have as a result of something that is threatening in our environment or something that is actually happened. And that's a broad range of things that can happen. Sergio, you there? But it's okay. I'm going to keep going. It's all right. But it's a broad range of things that happen in our lives. And we know when we're under stress. I mean, it's on your mind. You know, you're ruminating about it. You can't get off of it. It affects other things, your attention span, how you treat other people, how you interact with other people. So I feel like, especially as we get older, because we don't want to make getting older, a part of what brings us down beyond what just getting older typically does. And that is one way to be able to address our stress, is going to be one way for us to be able to better manage that. We always want to go back to simpler times, but the reality is that we can't do that. So we're here in the moment, and we have to deal with what's going on. This is one of the things that we worked a lot with when I worked with the marathon bombing victims in Boston. Or even back before then, I directed the mental health service for the flights that flew out of Boston into the World Trade Towers. And we were working with family members and other significant others to understand how there's a trauma that happens, and the residual of trauma is stress. But you have to deal with both of those, because one is a part of the much larger piece that's going to be there, and it's going to be important. Have to come forward. Life moves on. Another word that I'd like to offer, in addition to nostalgia, is solastalgia. And this is a fairly new research in mental health, because it was first developed in the area of environmental health, in which, like, for example, Hurricane Helene hit here in North Carolina. And then because of climate change, that's happening in many different locations. But what happens when something so devastating hits? And you live, thankfully, but everything around you changes. The things that you were familiar with change. The things that you were protected by change. The people that were there that you knew and could trust change. The places that you would go, the grocery stores are no longer there. If you think about that in the bigger picture, solastalgia, Solastalgia. If you think about that in the bigger picture of things, that is what aging is about, because as we get older, those kinds of things change. We long for, the 1970s of the world, when we were back in high school, when we were young and things were so much simpler that we didn't have to ask a third or fourth question about things. We just accepted them in the first question, even if we asked that. But things aren't that way now as we get older. And what happens is that these stressors that I mentioned, they add up to Ling Chi, if you're able to keep up with it. And I'm not sure I'm connecting all of this the way I could optimally, and if you have any questions, I'm certainly glad to answer them. But does anyone know what Ling Chi means? Lingchi. It is, you all know about that. So let's go up in this a little bit, Sergio. Thank you. But you know what you've heard what it is. It's a Chinese, ancient Chinese way of torture. It's actually from the 1900s through 1905. And it's called, you can keep going. I'll let you know when to stop. It's actually called, just a second, if you can stay there, Sergio, just go back up. Let me mention a couple of things before I get back to Ling Chi. This slide, one more up, the one that has the bubbles. This is a slide that you may have seen before, and I've used this before, because it gives you an indication of the things that are on us every day. Not all of these things are on us, I hope, but many of these things are, and they can be at any particular time. So this is kind of what we just carry on a daily basis. So many of those other things that I was talking about are in addition to these. And we're mostly equipped to handle these, although there's some things that we have to do, some tasks we have to accomplish to be able to deal with those. Okay, you can go forward now, Sergio. I wanted to mention this book for those of you who may be interested, because it was a really interesting book by Bessel van der Kolk. He's in Boston. And I knew him. In fact, we did a couple of workshops together years ago. He's extremely well known for this book primarily because The Body Keeps Score. Now, the idea is that all these little stressors that I just mentioned, that I've been sort of hinting at all along, they continue to build up. And those things are what makes it more difficult for you to be able to focus on the health medical issues, for your body to be able to hold up and deal with the battle that it has to deal with. So I would encourage any of you that are interested in this to get the book or get it book on audio, and hear about the kinds of things that are being done, the kinds of work that are being done for the brain, for the mind, and the body. Because I think about it as, cognitions, behavior, emotions. That is kind of the triangle that goes into almost everything, all of the decisions that we make and all the actions, and how we appraise that, and how we ultimately deal with the question of whether it's going to be stressful or not. You can go down, Sergio. Okay, I mentioned nostalgia, an irrecoverable condition. Continue. And then there's solastalgia, where those things that are happening, that had been happening all along, are no longer happening. Like in aging, as I talked about it, when people move on, they change lives in some way, or they pass away, when the store is not there, when the music changes. Because the reason that I talked about the music early on was to at least give you a taste of what it was like during that time. Because I know somebody was shaking something in there. You don't have to say what it was, but at that time, things were very different. And now things are where they are and what we're having to deal with. So move on, another slide. Okay, you can continue. Okay, here. It is an ancient Chinese method of torture, translated into, which all of you have heard about, death by 1,000 cuts. And to me, that's what stress does to us. Stress equals trauma after it gets to a certain level. It's different for all of us because our tolerance level, our ability to carry that is different. Our challenges in other ways that may get in the way of that are different. But nonetheless, it is not helpful as we go through life, as we age. And as all these things begin taken away and the notion of solastalgia sets in, we miss things. We don't have those things that were there to support us anymore. And those things are going to be important for us to identify a way to put back into our lives to be able to help us to carry forward. Next slide. Okay. So these are the types of things that I would recommend. Now, there's so much more to this story that I'm not able to cover here. And even if I had a lot more time, all the things that would need to be mentioned aren't going to be able to be covered. So there's a little homework that you might have to do on top of this. And by the way, I heard that New England was trying to get some guy named Jaden Daniel. But we can talk about this next time around, I think, when football season comes. But just remember, I said that, okay? But for wellness sake, these are some things that I would suggest. It's easy to hear things in theory, but actually to deal with them in practice is a different matter altogether. You know, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die to get there. And so many other things about theory we say about what we'd like to see, what we'd like to do, and all these other things. And when we actually have the opportunity, we don't. So it's important to remember in life that when we think about theory, change is the only constant. That no matter, during the time that we've been here at this wonderful program, something's changed that we don't even know about. And we'll find out about it later. So to the extent that we are in a position to put our understanding of change as the constant into practice as opposed to just in theory, we'll all be better off. Live for the moment. I remember songs back in the day that said, we're living for the weekend. Go ahead, OJs. But you might not have the weekend. Live for the moment. Right now is the time that we have. And yeah, you can borrow trouble. You know, we all do. Oh man, that's going to happen. You know, I used to think about it when we were in Snow Hill, little old Snow Hill. And my dad would come home from school. And I knew if I had done anything, like one day I went down to the block and Thelma and Scarlett and Robert know what we're talking about. Oh, and Mr. Lynch there too. But I knew that somebody had called me in before Daddy got home. And, you know, at that time, and Daddy was the principal of the Black High School. So when Daddy comes in the house, you know what's going to happen by the way he addresses you. So he called my mama Cat. So he said, Cat, where is the boy? And when he said that, my tongue dropped to my stomach, because if he said son, that would have been different. If he said Kermit, that would have been different. But when he said boy, I knew something was about to happen. So I tried to do my best to think about, well, maybe this time Daddy won't come in. Maybe this time I won't get a whipping. You know, go down the line. Well, it turns out I did. But I used to worry about whippings quite a bit. But those were in my control, because I would be the one out of control doing that. And the other thing I should have known, by the way, there was a gentleman that we used to call a wino. It's disparaging now. But his name was Bob Champ. And I'm sure he's not with us now. I would think he's not with us. But he called my daddy. And they had only payphones at that time. And he probably put his last dime in to say, Mr. Crawford, Kermit is not supposed to be down here. And you think about those kinds of things in life. And I used to think about, you know, oh, God, I'm gonna get another whipping about something. But we didn't understand how, yeah, everybody in the community was deputized to whip you, but everybody in the community was deputized to feed you too. And you had so much control under that. So you grow as you get older, and I began to realize that I need to pay attention to right now. I don't have next now. I've already lived the previous now, and there are different statements about that. Pay attention to the moment. Some people call this mindfulness, and it might be helpful for you to think about that and do some mindfulness training. Acknowledge the challenges and the victories. There are going to be tough days and there are going to be better days. The way I think about life is that for the most part, we're on an even keel. I mean, we don't get too high, we don't get too low, because we get too high, we know low is coming. We get too low, we know it's going to, you know, the rainbows are going to come back. There are always blessings in the storm. And it's important for us to remember those blessings when it comes down to the challenges, because the fact that we're here today means we all got through challenges to get to where we are. And we got more challenges in us and more victories to take. And the rest will take care of itself when it comes time. Call out the stressor and call out the stressors. I thought it was important to do that, because one of the things that I thought when I was writing this is that, you know how in church again, somebody gets up and yells, the devil is a liar. But they calling out the obvious for those of us who are Christians. And we need to identify what the stressors are. You know, sometimes it's boo. Sometimes it's money. Sometimes it's just not getting accomplished what you want. Sometimes it's health. But identify that and try to somehow encapsulate it to keep it um, from spreading and kind of flowing to a lot of other things that aren't really directly related to that. Identify those stressors and even write them down, and then say, rebuke them, that you got me that time, but you're not going to get me this time. Or if you got me and you get me, you're not going to stay with me the way you did. Keep your peeps. It's important. And Mr. Edwards talked about this, and also Mr. Jones talked about this, and also Mr. Burnside, that it's important to stay in contact with people like Thelma Jones, her support group, because you've got to be able to diffuse some of those things inside of you. It's an interesting thing about us as we get older. We either come up with all the right answers or all the wrong questions. So since we don't know those things, it's important for us to test them out on other people. Now you can't test them out on anybody. You can't just go up to Junebug and ask Junebug for wisdom, okay? Bubba ain't necessarily going to help you. And I think back to my Uncle Buddy. Our Uncle Buddy could barely take care of himself. He wouldn't help me. But there are people in your affinity group. There are people in your community. There are people that you can reach back to that that will help. This is what Grandma used to do. This is what other people in the community, because we knew all these people who had wisdom. I say these things because it's important that we learned a lot of lessons then back in nostalgia that have application for soul nostalgia, if we can just think back and pull those things forward. Keep your passion, whatever you have passion for. We see Thelma's passion, and we see the benefit of Thelma's passion for so many other things. My passion, I got a little bit of a problem, was basketball. It ain't quite happening that way anymore. I can't even remember the last time I dunked a basketball. Yes, I can. It's when I was 35 years old. But I can't get much past that. So I have to live through whatever else that I'm seeing. But I'm working on other passions to try to develop those things. Whatever your passion is travel, or whether it's talking, or whether it's writing, whether it's working, or any of those things, make sure you keep a handle of that, because passion will get you through to be able to see to the other side of a whole bunch of things that are happening. So the last thing that I wanted to mention, almost the last, is have fun. I've talked about this before. When 9/11 happened, the family, we were at Logan International Airport, and the families were coming in. And as soon as the families came in, the adults, we took the children over to a separate room. Because what we found through the research that was done during that time is that fun and stress, fun and trauma are reciprocally inhibiting. And what that means, they can't both exist at the same time in the same place. When you're having fun, you don't often think about those other things on the other side. And I go back to the time that I played basketball. During that time, when the basketball game was coming, my mind was clear. I had no worries in the world. But after that, it was different. So in terms of fun, what do y'all like to do for fun? It's harder now as we get older to find those things. Getting older sort of takes some of those things away, in part because we've done so many of them, in part because we can't do them anymore. But it's important just to do something stupid. When's the last time you did something stupid, ignorant? Just make sure that it's not fatal. I mean, don't say Kermit told me to do something stupid and then that was the last thing I did, because I don't want to have to answer to St. Peter's or anybody when I get to wherever I'm going. That's going to be important. But it's important for you to think about the fun that you had. I wanted to end this in telling a story, but I think I'm pretty much over time. But to think of a story where a dog was tied to a tree, a little puppy, and his master went off to play, and the leash fell off the puppy because the other dogs were running around and playing. But he didn't move because in his mind, he was still caught on the tree as a part of the tree, meaning he was still leashed to the tree. We're dealing with craziness from 47 right now. This is part of what we talk about in anticipatory anxiety. That's a form of stress, anticipatory anxiety. So I say, don't borrow trouble. Do what you're doing, because for the most part in your lives, 47 hadn't touched you yet. And there's only so much that he can do. Now, he can change our psyche because we think we're leashed to this tree when we're not. But we determine our own fate. And I look for people like, if you know Lucille Clifton, a poet. Lucille Clifton, in one of her poems, she ended, come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. And that's what I'd leave us with. Don't let us be the ones that allow something to kill us, because we're the ones that are capable of dealing with the stress, capable of dealing with the trauma. And ultimately, we're going to be here when 47 goes on and does what he needs to go to do. Thank y'all for this time.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Crawford. Thank you so much. And you've dropped so many excellent gems in your presentation there. So yeah, amazing. And you know, just like you said, there's just only so much that we can do, but we just got to keep moving forward. Absolutely, absolutely. So I guess we have a few moments for any questions that the audience may have. Any questions?
I have one.
Okay, go right ahead, Ms. Jones.
Kermit, Dr. Crawford, thank you so
Kermit,
much.
what changed? I'm still Kermit, Thelma.
Okay. I was just trying to be politically correct. Okay.
Let me be real clear. It's only when y'all are paying me something that you have to be correct. That's when I'm Dr. Crawford. That's the only time. Otherwise, I'm just Kermit.
I like that.
Well, I would pay you if I could afford to, but I know.
Oh, no. You've given me all I ever need, okay?
Okay. But when you talked about the love that your daddy showed back in the day, which is also my high school principal, and I worked in his office. You talk about some disciplinary approaches, which have changed today. That you were frightened knowing that your dad was going to come home and whip you. So now kids don't even think about that. As a matter of fact, hit your own child and you may be looking at a police officer. Mm-hmm. Where and how did that change in terms of how some of our kids are today? I mean, look at us. We turned out great. And for every time you can remember that your parents beat your butt, I can remember every time mine beat mine. And I think that's kind of what helped me. And that is not to say that I'm encouraging brutality to kids. Right.
No, I think you're absolutely right, because every time I got a whipping, I deserved it. And there were times that I deserved it, other times that I didn't get them. And I remember when Mama gave me one whipping in life, well, she actually gave me 1.5, and she was whipping me, and I was standing there, I remember. And I was kind of, bored with it, because she wasn't, how small Mama was, and she wasn't doing much. Then if y'all remember Jack LaLanne and the glamour stretcher, this big piece of rubber, she ordered that for me. She didn't order that to exercise with. And then she only had to give me one more whipping with that. And I never got a whipping from Mama again. But I say that because I feel like, and this is kind of editorializing to an extent, you've got to put fear in the hearts of your children before it's too late. Because if you don't do it when they're small, I mean, my sons now are saying things that I wouldn't even think about. But that's the nature of the being. But they still have fear. Mama said, I brought you in this world, I'll take you out. And Daddy was just there to do what Daddy did. So I feel like we have lost so much, because if you remember during that time too, we had a pretty homogeneous community. I mean, everybody was there, teachers and store owners. I think of Mr. Suggs down on and pastors and, Reverend Morris and so many other people that were there, Mr. Hall next door and down the street, Mr. Edwards. And everybody looked out for us, but also everybody maintained the culture that we have lost. And as those of us who have grown up and grown out, especially in the communities that we've chosen to live in, to be safe and to have homes that appreciate that sort of thing, we don't have people around that care in the same way, and we can't connect with them in the same way. So I think it's partly losing the culture. I think it's partly wanting to talk instead of sort of use your hand. But you also think about during that time, somebody like me, I could have walked downtown and said the wrong thing and have been killed for racist reasons. So I felt like it had to be that way during that time, because the outcomes, the sanctions were so harsh too, that corporal punishment was a small price to pay. And I did. I say I spanked, but I whipped my sons. And I wish that I hadn't done it as long as I did. But by the same token, they have a lot of respect for me. They have respect for my wife, Barbara. They have respect for God. They have respect for elders. If they see you, they're going to call you Miss Jones or Mr. Burnside. And that part is important to me, even though one is a corporate vice president with L'Oreal and the other is a senior financial advisor for an organization. But the idea is that they had that in there. So I don't know what the medium place is to be able to find it, but I hope that the generations that are coming up can make sure that they can put some level of fear and protection and support in their children, so they'll have that and understand that it has value.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think, yeah, that was just a perfect response for that. Absolutely. As just kind of creating that balance as well. And I've heard most of my life, it takes a village. I mean, I think that's
Absolutely.
exactly what you're talking about. It takes a village.
Mhm.
So I see there are two hands up, Ms. Powers. Go right ahead.
Now, I just want to make a statement. When I was on the call a few months ago, and Dr. Crawford was speaking, that I was so impressed with the information that he provided. As a writer, I reached out to him and interviewed him about mental health, especially when you look at some of the dynamics of what we're dealing with in the society. It was after the election, dealing with anxiety and stress and what it means to our community. And as a result, the article that I wrote was on divine.health, which is a national health and wellness platform. And then that article was picked up by Texas Metro News, which is the largest African American paper here in Dallas, and subsequently has run in some other local newspapers as well. So he is a wealth of information, and I am grateful. He's very humble, but grateful that he shares his expertise. But one of the things I wanted to also mention is when you were mentioning your songs, and the reason that I said sexual healing is because after doing research on that song from Marvin Gaye, to find out that actually came from him being in a stressful emotional place and state of depression, and his manager had gone while he was overseas to sort of bring him back to the States and get him back in the music field, and found all these pictures on his wall that showed that he was dysfunctional sexually. And he said, Marvin, you need sexual healing. And from that came this amazing song. So, when you were talking about mental health, to think that song, which has become so iconic with him, came from a place of emotional stress.
Thanks for sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm. Now, some of our minds kind of drifted when you said sexual healing. So thanks for bringing it back and putting it in a place that next time we look at you, we'll be able to look at you the same. Okay.
Great point, Dr. Crawford. Great point. Brother Jones, you have I see your hand is up. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, something tells me I can see why he was getting spanked when he was a kid. I so appreciate you and everyone, the conversation we had before this and hearing you just bring your wisdom in here. And I do tend to say, for me, music is medicine. Like my distraction of having fun is like going to a concert, hearing something good that just takes me away from whatever's going on. Like when I was watching Erykah Badu this past weekend at Wolf Trap, I didn't even think about 47 and Iran and Iraq and all those things. That just took me away. And so I'm struck by you sharing your story. And as you navigated this, I mean, you have been really up close to, I mean, I'm thinking two major tragedies with 9/11 and with the Boston bombings. And I consider what we're going through right now is another level of tragedy. And so
absolutely.
How you navigated that, and what I know has been very true for folk, those steps that you provided were really helpful. But for you, even when you were close to that and having to navigate those things, how do you step out of those moments in a way that just brings you back into a focus of gratitude and thoughtfulness around all the things that you clearly you have lived a very blessed life and have some great friends. So what helps you like literally just detach from those things and keep moving forward?
First of all, I can see anybody going to an Erykah Badu concert is having fun, unless your name is Tyrone. So I completely understand. I've had my own therapy, Mr. Jones. And during that time, I needed to talk to people who would help me sort of process it, to be able to work through it. I mean, to hear the story of, and that wasn't the only thing. I also responded to after the Hurricane Katrina, Wilma and Rita in Louisiana for a couple of years, going down and working with them. And the way that I was able to do it was to make sure that I didn't keep anything inside. I wanted to make sure that I would get that out. I also wanted to make sure that we had people who were willing there, especially 9/11, to stay at the airport. We were living out of the airport for 9 days. And some of these people wanted to work 12, 14, 24 hours because people were coming in the whole time. And I wouldn't allow them to do it since I was directing the program, because I knew we need time to recharge. And that thing about fun, I find my ways to have fun. I mean, I can't golf so much anymore because of leg issues, but at the same time, I love music and I can really get into music. I love reading about things, not reading books, because I'm not so much into reading books anymore. I do occasionally. But in terms of just sort of reading things that I don't know anything about, I'll look at a program on cellular or something, or on outer space, because what I found that in looking at things like that, they have implications for the things that I do on a daily basis. And you don't know if you don't know, because you're not looking outside of your little window. I see depression as a smaller window that people have, and it's not intentional. And I'm sure it wasn't intentional for Marvin Gaye and any other people I work with, even the clients that I work with. But it's like their world just sort of shrivels in. So we have to do things to make sure that our world is as broad as it can be, to be able to see all options that are available. And until as many options available as you can, until you can see those options, then it does become a problem that you're going to be boxed in. You got to know where your boundaries are. And one of the things that I, when I was teaching people on how to go about doing this, I was saying, sometimes you got to say no. But if they come back another time, you got to say, hell no. Okay? Because that is a reality. I'm sure that Thelma is asked to do 1,000 things, too much for any one person. And she has to find a way to say it, but not a way to, dismiss or insult or degrade people, but a way that it can preserve people as much as she can, as much as I can when I say no. And to also say that, it's not a closed book. Maybe later on we can do some things and let folks know, but you got to be able to keep that boundary. And that's an important part. The other thing that was helpful for me is to know my role, because we went over to the terminal. I'm thinking about 9/11 now. When we went over to the terminal from the airport, because we were told that many of the ground staff were having a difficult time, because many of them knew not personally, but they knew the names of the alleged hijackers. They would call them by their first name, and alleged hijackers would call them by their first name. Some of the flight attendants, they always flew first class. The flight attendants would bring them drinks and things and would touch them and things like that. They were having a difficult time. So we went over there. There were 4 of us, and I was leading the mental health group, the psychology group. And we were with the state troopers, and we were with 4 clergy members. And looking at, we were standing in a concourse, and if you ever seen Logan Airport and you don't see any cars and anything happen, that in itself was whack. You knew something was really wrong. So we're standing in the middle, and all of a sudden, people started, as a herd, started rushing toward us because there had been a bomb threat apparently called in the terminal. So they were running out. And at that point, people are looking at me. So what are you going to do? And I'm thinking, I don't know what to do. So I looked at the clergy, and they knew what to do because they calmed the crowd down. There is power in the white collar. There is power in people that carry God with them. And then they put us in a place as a psychologist to do our work with the most difficult people to support, who had the most problems at that time, the most challenges, I should say, because it wasn't a problem. These people, I would say, are normal people dealing with an abnormal situation. And there, except by the grace of God, go I. If I were in that situation, I'd be the same way. So I knew what my role was, and I also knew the limitations of my role. I'd like to be Superman. I'd like to be all things to all people. But sometimes I know in my life, I can't even be me to me. So I have to always mitigate that to make sure that I'm able to do those things for other folks, while making sure that I'm preserved to be able to do things for myself. And just one other thing, I'm going on, but I was thinking about the civil rights movement, because the civil rights movement, I think, was really energized primarily because of the middle class. Because if you don't have a meal to eat, you can be angry. If you don't have a stable place to stay, you can be angry. But that kind of channeled anger is not necessarily going to be the only thing that gets you to a goal. When you have people that have resources and can go forward to be able to help, I think that that's important, which is my justification to say that I can't be all things to all people, because I got to keep some for me, even to be able to do things for other folks.
Amazing response. Amazing response. I love that. Just know your role. I love that. I love that. Now, in light of time, I know we're getting close to time, but I see one more hand. We can take this one last question from Mr. Roberts, and then we'll move forward.
Well, good evening. This is actually Vivanti Jones. I am Robert Jones's daughter. So I would like to bring you greetings from Barcelona. We are keeping US time, but I guess you guys who are in his text group know that he's over here, but he didn't tell me about this wonderful talk that you were giving today, Dr. Crawford, but I happened to be around the room, and I was hearing what was going on, so I decided to drop in and listen. And so I really appreciate all that you said tonight. And it had me thinking a lot of just about mental health in general. One of the questions, and this is a good end question, you ended with a quote. And I didn't catch the name of the poet that you said that that quote was from. So if you could
Lucille
tell me that.
Clifton.
Lucille Clifton. Okay. So because I think that's a good way of living life and thinking about things. And it's something that I would like to share with people who I work with frequently. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of the evening.
I have to say, Vivanti, you're as beautiful as ever. And
Thank
I
you.
never could understand how Robert could be your dad. Now, I should say that Robert is my classmate too. We went to A&T together. The difference between the two is that I didn't make it and Robert made it big. He was always the smartest. And he and the other one was David Applewhite. And I remember one time I made an 80 something on a test that David made a 70 something, and he literally was sick the next day. I kind of think you would have been the same way, Robert, because you were always so outstanding everywhere you went. And I am not surprised that you would have a daughter like Vivanti, Dr. MD type Dr. Vivanti, and your lawyer daughter too, Robinetta.
Okay, thanks for the comment. One thing Vivanti said a few minutes ago, she said, "Daddy, you hang with some great people, so I really appreciate my classmates."
Thank you. Me too. Thank y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
I want to acknowledge Dr. Vivanti Jones, who has a very important job in Columbia, Missouri, here in the United States. And she has spoken or been the guest speaker at the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund at least twice, if not 3 times. So we look forward to seeing you in November.
I'll be there.
All right. So thank you all so much for those excellent questions and responses. And, just kind of moving right along, I want to bring now to the forefront Miss Sylvia Powers from the Big D. That's Dallas, Texas, for those who may not know. But Miss, I think this is a perfect segue. We've talked about quite a lot tonight. And one of the recurring things have been just advocacy and advocating for yourself. So Ms. Powers will certainly talk about the power of advocacy. Ms. Powers, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And first of all, I want to acknowledge Thelma D. Jones. She serves as the co-chair on our national advocacy committee for the National Consortium of Breast Centers. And I know she may not want to actually say this, but the one thing that I love about her is when we had our national conference in Las Vegas, at Caesar's Palace, that she went with me to Emmett Smith's restaurant with his siblings. But she also is the type of person who went with me to the hood to visit my uncle. So she went to the glamorous ambience of being around the Hall of Famers restaurant, and then she went in the hood and just sat with me and loved up on my uncle. So I appreciate the woman that can do both things with grace and eloquence, but that can also serve beside me as we deal with advocates all over the country. And the main goal, as we saw in the news just a few weeks ago, a young woman who had worked with MTV dying from metastatic breast cancer at 52. She did not want to deal with the radiation of a mammogram. And once she was diagnosed, did not want to do treatment. But once she ended up with metastatic cancer, she wanted the word to be out that she wished other women didn't follow in her footsteps, that if she had taken the steps and done the mammograms and had gotten the treatment, that she might not have had the plight that she had at the end. And that's something that Thelma and I deal with on a regular basis is just trying to educate. You can make sure that people are aware that resources are available, but the most difficult thing is to deal with fear, because that doesn't come as far as a financial obligation. That is a battle that we fight that sometimes can be insurmountable. So it takes all of us, as they say, it takes a village. But when it comes to dealing with health and wellness and disparities in our community, it takes a village. And I'm very grateful that I get a chance to link up. With Thelma to make a difference, not only as she's doing there in DC, but she is working on a national platform with organizations all over the country so that we can definitely make a difference in the community. And I did put in the chat, uh, this actually this whole program has been amazing as we deal with men's health. But the Breast Cancer Wellness magazine, which is a magazine that the National Consortium of Breast Centers partners with, their issue for the summer is about men's health, and it talks about male breast cancer survivors. So I put the link in the chat. Please feel free to peruse the magazine, and look at some of the articles, and share it on your social media as well.
We will certainly be sure to do that. So thank you so much for sharing that,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Powers. And thank you for sharing the information on advocacy and being an example of, the saying is also, teamwork makes the dream work. So I think you are certainly the poster person for that, and the work that you do. So thank you very much for that. Okay, Mr. Jones, I think now we're at the time where I can turn it back over to you for any announcements and acknowledgments.
Just a quick note, the magazine that Ms. Sylvia just recommended is available on the website. I displayed the link, and if anyone can review the full magazine, it's available for everyone.
Thank you,
you.
Sergio, for putting that up. I'm really impressed, and I appreciate that. And Sylvia, I was taking a text message, but did I hear you mention about the upcoming conference?
Yes, the upcoming conference, which we've been working together and co-laboring with, will be in March of 2026 in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay, and you did mention the interdisciplinary one that's coming up in the next month or so.
Yes. In fact, this weekend you can go to the breastcare.org for people that need credits. It will be happening this weekend online, the virtual conference.
Okay, thank you. And sorry I missed it because, as I said, I had to take a text message.
Okay, I understand.
I won't go through all of the announcements in details, but I hope that you did receive a copy of the agenda. There are announcements about our upcoming breast cancer awareness, not breast cancer awareness, but our upcoming breast cancer support group meeting, one particularly with every year that we partner with Smith Center for Healing and the Arts. And then that's in July. In August, it is breast cancer and philanthropy, where we celebrate our annual philanthropy month. And Edward, I do hope that you will be around, because we would like for you to be a part of that meeting as well. And then, of course, September, I mentioned birthday and anniversary month. October, breast cancer awareness month. November is breast cancer and people with disabilities, where we hope to welcome back Dr. Vivanti Jones, and also Sherry Dinkinson-Trott. JD is very active in ensuring the success of that meeting in November. And of course, in December, it is our holiday celebration, and it's children whose parents have breast cancer. living or deceased. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention we already have our planned January meeting, which is always on advocacy. And Sylvia Powers, and hopefully maybe her executive director from NCBC, will be back to really blow our mind about the importance of advocacy, not just in breast cancer, but how and why it's important to advocate on a number of other things. And please consider visiting the American Cancer Society's website, because their upcoming March breast cancer walk, annual breast cancer walk of Making Strides Against Breast Cancer, is coming up in October around the Tidal Basin. And the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund has a team. I will be sending out information so that you can support our team, the TDJ Striders, Dynamic Striders, and we have a campaign goal of $3,500. And that campaign, or our team, is being led by my son, Jamal Jones, and grandson, Seneca Jones. So please support them in their advocacy and following in the footsteps of their great mom, Thelma D. Jones, if I must say so myself. Again, I want to thank our speakers, wonderful speakers. Kermit Crawford, my high school classmate. I don't think you did a wonderful job in everything. I love your speech. I guess you just didn't let people know that your real claim to fame, though, of course, is being my high school classmate, but we'll get that out at another time.
When you start telling that kind of thing, there's no telling what else gonna come out. So I decided to just leave it be. Just leave it be.
Okay, thank you. That was nicely said. And again, thank you. And what the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund wants to help you to amplify your story on prostate cancer. We are a breast cancer organization. However, when our bylaws or agreement was originally created with DC Cancer Consortium, there was room left for us to expand and raise awareness of other diseases. And so you are welcome to use the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund as a platform to help raise awareness around prostate cancer, because I consider it the brother to breast cancer, the brother to breast cancer. 1 in 8 men get prostate, 1 in 8 women get breast cancer. And as I mentioned earlier, women are getting it not only at an earlier stage, but they're getting it at a more aggressive and a later stage. And one of the things that the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund emphasizes is that early detection saves lives and creates a better outcome. And as you're going through your journey, remember us, because we believe that no one should travel their journey alone. And if there is a village to helping them, as we've heard tonight, it does a lot to help with one's mental health. I also want to acknowledge my board member and also my high school classmate, Scarlett Streeter, our technical person and our webmaster, Sergio Jimenez. And I see a number of our breast cancer ambassadors on the call: Anthea Peters, Denise Triplett, Sylvia Jackson, and Angela Walker. And there are a number of people that are on Android. And I also want to thank Roberta Bale, who is a tremendous supporter to our meetings. And of course, I did mention Sherry, who is not only ambassador, but very active in helping us to make sure that our disability community are included in everything that we do. Earlier, I was trying to get out our vision, and a blank mind just disappeared. But our vision is to embrace and achieve a world free of breast cancer, with the District of Columbia having one of the highest incidence and mortality rates in the country. That doesn't make me feel good at all, and it tells me that we still have a lot to do. And please consider supporting us with your donations to help us to achieve both our mission and vision. Our website is https://tdjbreastcancerfund.org, or you could just go to our website and click on the beating heart and donate generously. So thank you again, and I will turn it back over to you, Clinton, for closing remarks. What I did not say is that, well, maybe Sergio said it in the beginning, that this session is recorded. It will eventually be placed on our Facebook. So there are a number of people. I never realized how many people is on Facebook until after the meeting is over with. And a few people start telling me that they were on Facebook. And when I said, no, you weren't. But when they can tell me what happened, or when a speaker said something, then I know they were on Facebook because they weren't on Zoom. So thank you to everyone that's out in Facebook land. And now I will turn it back to you, Clinton, and thank you for sailing us through this evening.
Well, I want to thank you for just having this opportunity to take the lead this evening. And this has been an amazing experience that, I wasn't sure what to expect when I started, but this has been an excellent journey. I've had some ups and downs, kind of just hearing some of the stories, and then hearing Dr. Crawford sharing, his excellent presentation. And I agree. I think someone mentioned it, just now, really getting to know Dr. Crawford, I'm sorry, even better. I think you probably did deserve most of those whippings that you got, and then you probably should have gotten a few more, but we'll leave it at that for right now. But sir, excellent information, man. And I think there's so much that I gathered from your talk. I mean, from each of the speakers. I mean, starting with Mr. Jones earlier, and him sharing his story, and how true being connected, just the role that plays in helping us get through everyone's journey. And then Dr. Crawford, you kind of followed it up with, just kind of sharing of the nostalgia and soul nostalgia. That was certainly a new term for me, but so extremely important. And also how, you have to know your role in all that you do and have fun doing it. Just excellent information as we try to deal with stress and overcome the challenges of our life, because there's so many different stresses that we face every day. The ones that we talk about and the ones that we don't talk about, the ones that, we try to keep to ourselves, and, and think that, no one is going to know about that. But people will know about it. And in fact, that's what brings me to the next point in terms of accountability. And I love what you said, keep your peeps, staying connected with others, so that we can be accountable and hold each other accountable to do the things that we're supposed to be doing and do the things that we say we're going to do. And then Ms. Powers, you just kind of wrapped it all up with just the advocacy and just really bring it home, and how we have to we're better together, I think is a saying, that stresses the importance. And just one last little quote. I say it's a quote, but I heard it from one of my mentors. You can't know yourself nor grow yourself by yourself. So we have to do it together. We have to be together. Okay. So again, I want to thank Ms. Jones. Thank you so much for this platform and this wealth of information that you bring forth each and every month. And I really appreciate the fact that you're recording these sessions so that it doesn't end here. The conversation will continue on for years and years to come. So again, I welcome everyone to join us every third Wednesday of the month. And Ms. Jones, please make sure that you get the information out to me, and I will certainly circulate it within my network. So, and I challenge everyone on this call to do the same, because this is excellent work, excellent information. And I think someone said it earlier as well. Knowledge is power, and this is how we move forward and defeat some of the challenges that we face, the ones known and unknown. So I will conclude that with that. Oh, one more thing. Ms. Bell, thank you so much for joining us. I know I owe you a phone call, and I'm going to do that. I would say tomorrow, but I'm actually out of the office tomorrow, but certainly on Friday, I will certainly connect with you to continue the great work that you're doing as well. So greatly appreciate it. So again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I'm sorry. Go right ahead, Ms. Bell.
No, I was just saying thank you so much. I look forward to hearing from you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, thank you everyone for joining us this evening, and wishing you all the very, very best, and stay connected with one another. Stay connected. We're better together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.